If Ricky Olds hadn't been hungry in the early morning hours of October 9, 1979, his life might have followed a very different path. But the skinny 14-year-old had been out all night with older kids, and he hadn't had anything to eat since they'd been to Doggone Sam's, a hot dog joint on Penn Avenue. Ricky and his friends had spent the night traveling from one Pittsburgh neighborhood to another, from Homewood to Liberty Avenue, where his older friends went into the music bar. Ricky had to wait outside because he was too young for a fake ID to even work. Now it was past 3 in the morning and the only place open was the Fort Wayne Cigar Store, a 24-hour quickie mart on the lower north side, not far from where Ricky lived. 18-year-old Claude Bonner was driving Ricky and his 16-year-old friend Todd Allen home when Ricky asked if they could pull over for a snack. Ricky picks the story up 38 years later.
Today, this is the Light of Life rescue mission. In 1979, it was the Fort Wayne Cigar Store where the incident happened. I went straight to the back of the store to purchase some potato chips, a large bag, and I opened them before I got to the register. And I spilled some on the floor. And the clerk, he joked with me. He said he would shoot me if I didn't clean up those chips because he had just cleaned his floor. So I cleaned them up for him. And by the time I got done, Todd was gone, as well as the victim, Mr. Beitler. When I came out, I thought I saw Todd Allen with a gun on Mr. Beitler, and I just turned and ran. I was 50 or 60 yards away. I had already turned the corner, actually, before I heard a shot.
In fact, Todd Allen was robbing a man, Thomas Beitler, a third-generation postal worker who was on a coffee break from the late shift at the nearby post office. And Ricky had taken off quickly. An eyewitness later testified that he didn't even see Ricky at the scene of the crime. When Allen got back to the car, he claimed that Ricky was supposed to have taken the wallet, but all Ricky could say was no. All they had with them was the bag of chips Ricky had bought. Allen had run off without taking the victim's wallet. Both boys were arrested soon after. The newspapers referred to them as Northside Youths, and to Beitler as a man from Millville, which for anyone familiar with Pittsburgh was plain enough code that the boys were black and the victim white. Of course, the all-white jury could see the boys for themselves. The jury asked the judge if they could distinguish in their verdict between the boys, and they were told they could return any verdict they saw fit. But after 5 hours, they decided not to draw any distinction at all, and both were convicted of second-degree murder. When it came time to impose a sentence on Ricky Olds, though, the judge balked. One of Ricky's attorneys, Wendy Williams, gives the history of Ricky's sentencing.
Judge Strauss, Sam Strauss, was Ricky's trial judge. He was known as a hanging judge. That was before my time, but when I mention his name, everybody sighs and says he was the hanging judge. He was a prosecutor, very famous for bragging that he never lost a case, and even he was sick about having to sentence Ricky to life without parole. He asked the DA to come to his courtroom. At the time, it was Robert Colville, and begged them to work out a deal, a plea bargain for Ricky after his conviction where he wouldn't have to get life without parole. Robert Colville, the district attorney, told the court and the press that life without parole for Ricky was not life without parole. He misstated it. He lied to the Post-Gazette, the Pittsburgh Press, that Ricky would only do at best 17 years and probably less. That was not true.
The district attorney's misinformation worked. Even the newspapers got it wrong, reporting that the boys would be eligible for parole at the age of 30. With the DA's refusal to negotiate a shorter sentence for Ricky, the judge had no choice but to sentence him to life without the possibility for parole. "There is nothing I can do except write a letter to the pardon board," the judge said. But over the next 3 decades, no one ever filed a request for a pardon, and there is no record of any letter sent by the judge. Daisy Olds, Ricky's mother.
If you're a mother and you got a 14-year-old child and somebody tell you your 15-year-old child is going away for life and without parole, that's the baddest feeling you ever had in your life. You don't know the depression I went through down through the years, because there's nothing I could do about it. And nothing that I could do about it.
Ricky went to prison and waited for an appeal to set him free, but it never came. Instead, the Superior Court upheld his conviction on the thinnest of reeds, that he had arrived at the scene of the crime with the driver and the shooter and had left with them as well. The opinion made no mention of the fact that Ricky was 14 years old at the time of the crime, nor was his status as a juvenile considered when he was sent to prison.
When I first got to Western, they didn't have a juvenile wing, so I went right in with everyone else, with the adults. And the guards, man, I was in the media so much. The guards was like, "That's the kid that killed the mailman. Put him on A range." And the convicts was down there like, "Yeah, send him down here. We got something for him." So when I went down there, it's like, "What you in here for? Murder." And it's like, you didn't kill shit. I mean, excuse my language, but this is how it was. So I didn't fit in anywhere. And so consequently, I had nowhere to go. So, I was young, I was frustrated. So I got a lot of write-ups because, one, I was trying to prove myself. And two, I really did not like the way they treated me, the guards and so forth. So anything they would say, I would say something right back. It could have been avoided in hindsight, but I didn't want to avoid it at the time because I just felt like I was there for no reason. And it was like an outlet, actually.
It wasn't just that the prison was ill-suited to address the needs of a juvenile. Ricky's intelligence proved to be a burden as well. Most people with Ricky's intellect were in college by that age or else are out in the world working, learning who they were. He had none of those luxuries. He was in his early 20s and couldn't figure out how to fill his interminable days. A prison evaluation report from 1984 is illustrative. This individual is relatively calm and somewhat complacent for an inmate with so much time. Highly intelligent, his biggest problem is finding anything to motivate him. Slow to the point of seeming laconic at times, may need to go to an institution where he can further his education. The vast desert of a life entirely contained in institutions stretched before him. Ricky needed to find an oasis or he wasn't going to make it. Oddly, that oasis came in the form of a transfer to the legendary Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary after the 1989 inmate riots burned Camp Hill Prison to the ground. Ricky found Leavenworth to be a different place altogether.
Then the riots happened at Camp Hill. Although I had nothing to do with the actual riots, everyone got transferred because the jail burned down. So I ended up in Leavenworth, a place I had read about and saw on television. And I ended up fitting in a whole lot better there than I did back at Camp Hill or Western. These people had they had been around the world. They had done many things. And I felt like I could do what they did. Maybe not illegally, but I wanted to travel. I wanted to see things. I wanted to learn about people. And there was a lot of people there that spoke a lot of different languages, which intrigued me. But after I came back, I realized that I might actually have some skill. I could actually do some things. So when I came back, it was a totally different me. Like I had outgrown Camp Hill.
When Ricky returned to Pennsylvania from Leavenworth, the petty write-ups in prison began to wane, then they stopped entirely. He not only studied languages, but took a course titled The Dramatic Imagination. He learned PowerPoint, Word, and Excel. One of his many certificates indicated perfect attendance for 8 years of Navy SEALs aerobic class. Another thanked him for teaching yoga to other inmates. He was as busy as prison allowed him to be, and then, in 2010, Ricky saw a light at the end of the tunnel. One of Ricky's lawyers, Mark Bookman of the Atlantic Center for Capital Representation, explains the root of Ricky's optimism.
Over the last 6 years, from the Graham case to the Miller case to finally Montgomery versus Louisiana in 2016, the United States Supreme Court led what really can only be described as a juvenile revolution in the law. And that is, they declared essentially that children were different and they have to be treated differently. So just as in 2005, the United States Supreme Court had declared that juveniles can't be executed, by the end of 2016, they had found that mandatory sentences of life without the possibility of release were unconstitutional, and that if a sentence of life without the possibility of release was to be imposed, it would have to be extraordinarily rare. So obviously, Ricky was a prime candidate for release after 37 years in prison.
But even that turned out not to be as easy as it sounded. When Ricky went back for resentencing in Pittsburgh, his new judge spoke directly to him saying, quote, "To say your case is compelling would be an understatement," end quote. By then, Ricky had served 37 years, and the judge imposed a 20-year to life sentence, leaving him under state parole but granting him bail pending his appearance before the parole board. Yet the Pittsburgh prosecutors were not satisfied even with that. They appealed the ruling granting Ricky bail. It was another Thanksgiving and Christmas in prison before he finally appeared before the parole board, which promptly released him. Ricky is free, but after 37 years in prison, he is still under the control of the state. He will remain on parole until an appeals court reverses his sentence or the governor grants a pardon. His attorneys intend to file both.
I'm out, but I'm not out. See, I'm out, and it's beautiful. Everything is lovely except this parole thing really bothers me because, like, I go to work every day, and it's hard work, right? Physical work, I should say. And then I got just enough time to come home, and I can't go back out. I take a shower, I eat, and it's close to 8 o'clock curfew. So I'm just looking out the window, the same as I was up there. It's like work release. And it's like, once again, what is enough?
When I tell people about this case, they look at me with disbelief. They just assume I'm exaggerating. And I tell them, read the transcript. Take a look at the appeals. I mean, see what our justice system has wrought here. You know, the incompetence of the defense attorneys, the utter cowardice of the prosecution, the race discrimination, an all-white jury making this determination with a white victim and a black 14-year-old child as a defendant. The case itself is outrageous, and you know, I hope that there aren't very many cases like Ricky's case out there. But I also see this as a microcosm of the problems that we have in our justice system. These problems occur time after time, and the only thing I think we have to be careful of is we have to continue to be vigilant.
At the age of 52, with his lawyers working to secure his complete freedom, Ricky is readjusting to the world he was stripped of at 14 years old.
When I got out of prison, that day it was surreal. I had to reflect. When I got out, it was like being in a movie. Actually, I wasn't a character, I was watching the movie. And it was like everything, it was like somebody else's hand picking up the cup. It was like somebody else. I really couldn't, like, it was totally out of body, actually. And I was unable to really process. It all just moved so, I knew I was happy. I mean, I knew, but if we open that door and we see all them, they were all waiting for me. You see all those children out there, and that's what made it real for me. And that's what makes it real for me now. Like, that's why. Like, whatever happened, I can live with, but I learned a whole lot of things that they don't have to go through.